Teachings of Lord Caitanya, the Golden Avatar, a treatise on factual spiritual life by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Chapter 5, How to Approach God. In truth, all Vedic literature directs the human being toward the perfect stage of devotion. The paths of fruitive activities, speculative knowledge, and meditation do not lead one to the perfectional stage, but the Lord is actually approachable by one who follows the process of devotional service. Therefore, all Vedic literature recommends that one accept this process. In this regard, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quoted from the Lord's instructions to Uddhava in Srimad Bhagavatam 11, 14, 20 through 21. Na sadhayati mang yogo, na sankhayam dharma udhava, na swadhyayas tyago, yata bhaktir mamorjita, bhaktyaham ekaya grahya, sradha yatma priya satam, bhakti punati man nishtha, swa shvapakanapi sambhavat. Quote, my dear Uddhava, neither philosophical speculation, nor meditational yoga, nor penances can give me such pleasure as devotional service practiced by the living entities. I am dear only to my devotees, and I can be achieved only by devotional service. Even an extremely low-born person will become free from all contamination if he takes to my devotional service. Unquote. Devotional service is the only path by which one can achieve the Supreme Person. Devotional service is the only perfection accepted by all Vedic literatures. Just as when a poor man receives some treasure, he becomes happy, when one attains to devotional service, his material pains are automatically vanquished. As one advances in devotional service, he attains love of God, and as he advances in this love, he becomes free from all material bondage. One should not think, however, that the disappearance of poverty and the liberation from bondage are the goals of devotional service. Love of Krishna, love of God, is itself the goal, and it consists in relishing the reciprocation of loving service with the Lord. In all Vedic literatures we find that the attainment of this loving relationship between the living entity and the Supreme Lord is the goal of devotional service. Our actual function is devotional service, and our ultimate goal is love of Godhead. Therefore, in all Vedic literatures, Krishna is the ultimate center, and through knowledge of Krishna, all problems of life are solved. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then quoted a verse from the Padma Purana, quote, there are many different Puranas with instructions for worshipping different types of demigods, but such instructions only bewilder people into thinking that the demigods are supreme. Yet, if one carefully studies the Puranas, he will find that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the only object of worship, unquote. For example, in the Markandeya Purana, there is mention of Devi worship, or worship of the goddess Durga or Kali. But in this same Purana, it is also stated that all the demigods, even Durga, are but different energies of Vishnu. Thus, the study of the Puranas reveals Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to be the only object of worship. The conclusion is that, directly or indirectly, all types of worship are more or less directed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita 9:23 confirms that one who worships the demigods is in fact worshipping only Krishna, because the demigods are but different parts of the body of Vishnu or Krishna, but that such worship is irregular. Srimad Bhagavatam 11:21, 42 through 43 confirms this irregularity by answering the question, what is the purpose of the different types of worship described in the Vedic literature? In the Vedic literature, there are various divisions. One is called the Karma Kanda, which describes purely ritualistic activities. And another is the Jnana Kanda, which describes speculation on the supreme absolute truth. What then is the purpose of the ritualistic sections of the Vedic literature? And what is the purpose of the Upasana Kanda, which contains different mantras or hymns for worshipping various demigods? And what is the purpose of philosophical speculation on the subject of the absolute truth? Srimad Bhagavatam replies that in actuality, all of these methods described in the Vedic literature indicate the worship of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. In other words, they are all indirect ways of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sacrifices contained in the ritualistic portions of this literature are meant for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Indeed, because yajna, sacrifice, is specifically meant for satisfying Vishnu, another name for Vishnu is Yageshwar, or the Lord of Sacrifices. Since neophytes are not on the transcendental level, the Vedic literature advises them to worship different types of demigods according to their situation in the different modes of material nature. The idea is that gradually such neophytes may rise to the transcendental plane and engage in the service of Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For example, the Puranas advise the neophytes attached to eating flesh to eat it only after offering it to the goddess Kali. The philosophical sections of the Vedic hymns are intended to enable one to distinguish the Supreme Lord from Maya. After one understands the position of Maya, one can approach the Supreme Lord in pure devotional service. That is the actual purpose of philosophical speculation, and Krishna confirms this in the Bhagavad Gita 7:19. Quote, "After speculating for many, many births, the philosophical speculators and empiric philosophers ultimately surrender unto me, Vasudeva, and accept that I am everything." Unquote. It can thus be seen that all Vedic rituals and different types of worship and philosophical speculation ultimately aim at Krishna. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu then told Sanatana Goswami about Krishna's multi-forms and his unlimited opulence. He also described the nature of the spiritual manifestation, the material manifestation, and the manifestation of the living entity. In addition, he informed Sanatana Goswami that the planets in the spiritual sky, known as Vaikunthas, and the universes of the material sky are different types of manifestations, for they are created by different energies, namely the spiritual energy and the material energy, respectively. As far as Krishna himself is concerned, he is directly situated in his spiritual energy, or specifically in his internal potency. To help us understand the difference between the spiritual energy and the material energy, the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam gives a clear analysis of the two. Sridhar Swami also gives a clear analytical study in his commentary on the first verse of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Accepting Sridhar Swami as an authorized commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quoted his commentary as follows, quote, "The 10th canto of the Bhagavatam describes the life and activities of Krishna because he is the shelter of all manifestations. Knowing Krishna to be the shelter of everything, I worship him and offer him my obeisances." Unquote. In this world, there are two kinds of principles operating. One principle is the origin or shelter of everything, and all other principles are derived from this original principle. The supreme truth is the ashraya, the shelter of all manifestations. All other principles which remain under the control of the ashraya tattva, or the absolute truth, are called asrita, or subordinate corollaries, and reactions. The purpose of the material manifestation is to give the conditioned souls a chance to become liberated and return to the asraya tattva, or the absolute truth. Since everything in the cosmic creation, which is manifested by Krishna's Vishnu expansions, is dependent on the asraya tattva, the various demigods and manifestations of energy, the living entities, and all material elements are dependent on Krishna, for Krishna is the supreme truth. Thus, Srimad Bhagavatam indicates that everything is sheltered by Krishna directly and indirectly. Consequently, perfect knowledge can be had only by an analytical study of Krishna, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Lord Caitanya then asked Sanatana Goswami to listen attentively as he described the different features of Krishna. First, the Lord informed him that Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, is the absolute supreme truth, the cause of all causes, and the origin of all emanations and incarnations. Yet, in Vraj, or Goloka Vrindavan, he is just like a young boy. His form is eternal, full of bliss, and full of knowledge absolute. He is both the shelter of everything and the proprietor as well. In this connection, Lord Caitanya gave evidence from the Brahma Samhita 5.1. Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishnaha Satchid Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Quote, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with a body full of knowledge, eternality, and bliss. He has no origin. He is the original person, known as Govinda, and is the cause of all causes. Unquote. In this way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave evidence that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, full in all six opulences. His abode, known as Goloka Vrindavan, is the highest planet in the spiritual sky. In addition, Lord Caitanya quoted a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.28. Ete changsha kala pungsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulang Lokang Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. Quote, all the incarnations described previously are either direct expansions of Krishna or indirectly expansions of the expansions of Krishna. But Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. He appears on earth in this universe or any other universe when there is a disturbance created by the demons who are always trying to disrupt the administration of the demigods. Unquote. There are three different processes by which Krishna can be understood. The empiric process of philosophical speculation, the process of meditation according to the mystic yoga system, and the process of Krishna consciousness or devotional service. By philosophical speculation, the impersonal Brahman feature of Krishna is understood. By meditation or mystic yoga, the supersoul, the all-pervading expansion of Krishna, is understood. And by devotional service, in full Krishna consciousness, the original personality of Godhead, Krishna, is realized. In this connection, Lord Caitanya quoted a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.11. Varanti tat tattva vidas tattvang yagyanam avayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. Quote, those who are knowers of the Absolute Truth describe the Absolute Truth in three features: the impersonal Brahman, the localized all-pervading Supersoul, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Unquote. In other words, Brahman, the impersonal manifestation, Paramatma, the localized manifestation, and Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are one and the same. But according to the process adopted, he is realized as Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. By realizing the impersonal Brahman, one simply realizes the effulgence emanating from the transcendental body of Krishna. This effulgence is compared to the sunshine. There is the sun god, the sun itself, and the sunshine, which is the effulgence of that original sun god. Similarly, the spiritual effulgence, Brahmajyoti, the impersonal Brahman, is nothing but the personal effulgence of Krishna. To support this analysis, Lord Caitanya quoted an important verse from the Brahma Samhita 5.40, in which Lord Brahma says, Yasya prabha prabhavato jagad anda koti kotishva shesha vasudhadi vibhuti binam Tad Brahma Nishkalam Anantam Ashesha Bhutang Govindam Maripurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Quote, I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, whose personal effulgence is the unlimited Brahmajyoti. In that Brahmajyoti there are innumerable universes, each filled with innumerable planets." Unquote. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further explained that the Paramatma, the all-pervading feature situated in everyone's body, is but a partial manifestation or expansion of Krishna. It is for this reason that Krishna is sometimes called Paramatma, the Supreme Self, the soul of all souls. In this regard, Lord Caitanya quoted another verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-55 concerning the talks between Maharaj Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami. While hearing the transcendental pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, Maharaj Parikshit inquired from his spiritual master, Shukadeva Goswami, as to why the inhabitants of Vrindavan were so much attached to Krishna. To this question, Shukadeva Goswami answered, "Krishnam enam avihitvam atmanam akhilatmanam jagadhitaya sopyatra dehi va bhati mayaya." Quote, "Krishna should be known as the soul of all souls, for he is the soul of all individual souls and the soul of the localized Paramatma as well. At Vrindavan, he acted just like a human being to attract people to him and show that he is not formless." Unquote. The Supreme Lord is as much an individual as other living beings, but he is different in that he is the Supreme, and all other living beings are subordinate to him. All other living beings can enjoy spiritual bliss, eternal life, and full knowledge in his association. Next, Lord Caitanya quoted a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, 10:42, in which Krishna, while telling Arjuna of his different opulences, indicates that he himself enters this universe by one of his plenary portions, Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, and also enters into each universe as Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, and then expands himself as the supersoul in everyone's heart. Lord Caitanya then said that if anyone wants to understand the Supreme Absolute Truth in perfection, he must take to the process of devotional service in full Krishna consciousness. Then it will be possible for him to understand the last word of the Absolute Truth.